Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk in this video a bit more about a topic we were addressing a little bit on last night's office hours. Well, we were trying to address it until Fan Man pulled a Michael Scott and decided we were going to talk about whatever was on his mind, but that's our lovable curmudgeon, Fan Man. But no, I want to talk more about Disney and basically this concept, this sentiment that the magic is lost. Or it's dying, it's seriously dying. And this, of course, with all of the pandering to social agendas that it's getting into and delving into with all of its properties and the growth. I mean, the way it's growing. It's maybe I'll start with saying what Disney. I don't want to get too this is my story or whatever, but I think my experience with Disney is going to be pretty common to a lot of people my age, and then even if you're a different generation, you'll have something similar. Unless you just grew up being one of those people who are just completely irrational, in my mind, growing up, who just love to hate on Disney. Oh, Disney's so corporate, blah, blah. The Disney-fied version of the fairy tales. That's not the original versions. Get over yourself. I always thought fairy tales and mythology, they're supposed to go through versions. You don't just constantly tell the same one or whatever, in that sense with fairy tales. So anyway, I grew up with Disney fairy tales. They're what drew me in to the love of fiction, and from fairy tales into mythology, of course, eventually. That's what really built all of that into me. But more than that, Disney just had this sense of magic around the whole company. It was just almost palpable. I mean, I remember, again, my childhood, going out and renting, movies, and they'd come in the little boxes. But if you saw that little logo of Sorcerer Mickey on there, you knew you were in for a treat. You knew that was something special in that movie, as a child, because it was a Disney movie. There was the Disney Sunday night film. I remember that was a big deal. Every you knew, even if it wasn't a big movie like something that one of the Disney classics, sometimes they would show those. Other times they would just show smaller films or original movies or whatever. You always knew you were in for a treat because it was Disney. Disney was going to bring you something really cool, really fun and escapist, and that really didn't realize it then, but now I realize truly resonated with you because it followed the hero's journey, because it's on that path. That's what it stuck with you. It stuck with you, even the ones that maybe weren't that great compared to others. Disney is just in recent years, it's a very recent and concise change. They have turned so firmly away from that. It's shocking. It's frightening, and they've been doing it. On some level, you can tell that certain things they're going to follow the money in some areas. But in some ways of looking at it, you can certainly see a small group of people inside Disney or wherever the positions they hold that are really trying to consciously subvert the culture, and they have this insidious way of doing it. Look at the live action films. This is an example I brought up on the Office Hours stream last night. But the live action films started with Cinderella. Now, I haven't seen many of these live action films because I'm just not interested. I don't see the point. I don't understand this obsession with making what was gloriously magical animation, redoing it in live action. Live action's kind of boring, from my point of view. I've seen most of the Beauty and the Beast one, and it's boring. It's like the animated version light. It's really bad. I don't get what people like about it. But look at the progression of those films. From Cinderella, and I'm looking at the ones that are retellings, not additions to our remakes of reconceptualization, something like Maleficent or Pete the Dragon. I'm talking about retellings of the original fairy tale stories. You started with Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, moving on now to Aladdin, and now they're doing Ariel. Beauty and the Beast, a lot of people criticized it for being a shot-by-shot remake, pretty much, of the animated classic. But it was more. It wasn't just that. There was these little subtle slips in there of an agenda. You had Emma Watson, of course, her philosophies and her things that she speaks out for. And I'm trying to avoid watchwords because God forbid YouTube let you have some free speech and advertise at the same time. But the stories came out about her saying, well, I was very important to me that Belle not wear a corset, or, and then they had to make Belle was the inventor, not her father. And all the changes that it made were pointless. None of them helped make a better story. None of them seriously got in the way of the story. And that's, something to be said for that, but I didn't like it anyway on the principle. But that was that. Then I haven't seen Aladdin, but I see a lot of different, just visually, you look at the visuals of Aladdin, and it's a completely different feel, a completely different setup. Everything's covered up more. Of course, they're not going to play into the hero's journey as much. It's very visually, it's just a completely different look. Now they've got the news where we're cross-racially casting the princesses now with this Ariel. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. So many other people have made great arguments. I'm not just going to add on to theirs, but that's nonsense, and that's clearly agenda-driven, that casting. And then the teaser dropped for Mulan, and this looks awful. I know it's just a teaser. I know. But I think it's pretty naive not to make some pretty educated inferences about what this movie's probably going to be. Guarded, of course. Wait for the trailer and whatnot. But the visuals, everything, it looks like the story of Mulan, the basic plot, sapped of all the magic, completely sapped of all the magic. And that's why I'm using Mulan as my big example here, because there's no music, no fun, no music. No attempts at doing Mushu or any of the animals in there at all. We've heard for a while now that they're changing Lee, I forget his name, the general of the army that Donny Osmond did the voice for in the film. We've heard they're changing up his character, and we see a very different character in the teaser for that. And the teaser gives the impression, and it focuses on how badass Mulan is. And it gives the impression that she's always been this badass, even before going to the military. That's not the case in the Disney classic, the one that endeared us. Mulan's hero's journey was because she had to learn. She didn't fit in. She didn't like, just conforming to the mold of what it meant to be a woman in her culture. That's fine. And then she had a love for her father. She wanted to spare him going out to the military, so she goes there. But she goes into that military completely clueless about what it takes to fight and be a soldier and all of that. She has to learn that, just like the other soldiers. And that's what endeared us to her. Her willingness to go out into an uncharted territory and to learn and to become better. I mean, that was amazing. So then by the time the sequel gets around, she's earned that. She's earned that to have that badassness from the start. I mean, that's the deal. And that's the feminist journey now, rather than the hero's journey, is that nope, they were always amazing from the beginning. The culture keeps them down. The patriarchy is the problem, and they just have to continually peel back the layers of how amazing they already are. That's the feminist journey. We saw it with Captain Marvel. Now here we go. Here it is in Mulan. It looks like. Of course, the trailer or film could come out and prove me wrong. I doubt it. And at the end of the Mulan film, it was epic because she built a bridge. She was a true heroine because she was working now with the soldiers she'd made friends with. She had brought her feminine energy to that team, and where you had the men constantly fighting with each other, and that's how they did it or whatever. She brought a feminine energy, which didn't replace their masculine energy at all. It didn't say, no, what you have isn't worthy of heroism. It said, I have something different that's just as worthy of its own kind of heroism. Maybe you should come check this out. And they were able to work together and pull off this amazing feat in the end. That's amazing. And then when she's given or offered at least the job of advisor, I mean, that's huge. That movie earned every bit of accolades it put on Mulan in the end. Her character absolutely earned that. She was anything but a Mary Sue. Complete opposite of it. She's very well written. With Disney's track record and knowing the people that are behind the agendas in it now, I don't see this live-action Mulan that's going to be anything like that. And we know this because of their treatment of the other franchises. I mean, look at what they're doing look at what they did to Toy Story 4, for crying out loud. Toy Story, a beloved Disney Pixar classic. And I knew from the trailers that this is what this film was going to be, because we got the little stuff with Forky there at first. That's cute, that's fun, that looks like the usual Toy Story magic. But then here comes Bo Peep. Bo Peep is back. And she doesn't have a skirt. We're not wearing a skirt this time. We're going to be a badass and know how to save people and kick butt, because we have to redeem her character. She was a love interest at one time. We can't have that. That's nonsense. Disney's doing this with Marvel, with Star Wars, with all of its properties, and they're turning inward on their own classic properties that they've always had, their magical fairy tale films, and they're doing that as well. I look for Frozen 2 to be loaded with this nonsense. The magic of Disney's gone. So what does that mean? Well, that means, I can speak to it from an agenda standpoint, but the children today are not going to associate the level of security, wonder, amazement, and magic with Disney that I did as a child, or other people did as children, throughout the different generations. Because Disney's losing that cred. It's losing that touch. It's trying to smush together too many brands, and instead of placing them under some family-friendly thing, they're placing it under an agenda. It's really a mess, and it's sad. It's really sad. I hope they can turn it around. I would love for this whole social agenda infiltration of fiction. I would love for this to be over soon. We keep fighting the culture war. We keep calling it out. That's all we can do. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I wanted to talk more about that. But that is all for now. I have arrived at my destination, so I will end this video. Do check out my own graphic novel, Tales from the Stacks, currently on Indiegogo. Link in the description. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.